Yeah, just take a seat. I'm not even gonna intro this video, just sit down. It doesn't sound real. If you told me this was a movie, I would be like, you know what, that makes more sense. Twins June and Jennifer were born to parents Aubrey and Gloria in 1963. The twins were their third and fourth kids. They had two previously. And June and Jennifer would eventually be known as the Silent Twins. The family relocated first to England, but they ended up in Wales in 1974. They moved quite often because the dad was employed by the Air Force. The twins were very close, very, very close, and they both struggled with their speech. Their speech was not advancing at a normal rate, and as a result of that, they only knew very little words. It was difficult for them to communicate to anyone else. One of the twins, June, has been quoted saying, quote, "We had a speech impediment. Our parents couldn't understand a word that we were saying. Nobody understood, so we stopped talking," end quote. And on top of that, they were excluded at the school they attended because their entire school was white, and they were not. And that had a massive impact on them, so much so that the school staff would dismiss them early each day to avoid the bullying. How sad is that? June has said, quote, "We were ridiculed and bullied. It was a feeling of despair, desolation, being let down by everybody, hated, and being made to feel horrible," end quote. So the two of them felt different because of their speech. They also felt resented by their classmates, so they just decided that they didn't really want anything to do with anyone else. They stopped reading and writing at school. They stopped making eye contact with anyone. They stopped talking to everyone altogether, including their family. And they created their own little language with words only they understood and sounds that they would make to communicate with each other. Later on, they stopped talking even to each other in front of other people. June and Jennifer only communicating to each other bonded them, of course, but soon they began morphing into one person. They would walk in sync, they would eat in sync, every single movement of theirs was in sync. So say, for example, they were walking, one of them tripped and fell, the other one would trip and fall. When they were around 14 years old, a medic visited the school and noticed the twins' behavior and lack of speech, so he notified a child psychologist to meet with the girls. As a result, the twins were sent to speak to therapists to try and understand them more, to try and help them, but they refused to speak, so that was unsuccessful. The twins were then sent to a hospital because their behavior was so noticeably odd and nobody could make sense of it, but they also refused to speak there, so that didn't help. Then they were sent to a boarding school, also wouldn't talk there, so that didn't help either. Eventually, a decision was made that the only way to help them learn how to live independently would be to separate them, but separating them only made things worse because they stopped eating, they stopped sleeping, they would hardly move, they would just exist, but there was almost no life behind their eyes. So eventually they were reunited because that situation obviously wasn't helping. When they were back together, June and Jennifer became even more isolated to the world, believe it or not. They would basically spend 23 out of the 24 hours of the day in their bedroom only with each other. They wouldn't leave the room to eat. I assume the parents brought the food to their bedroom, but they simply didn't want to coexist with anyone but each other. They refused to be in the same room as anyone else. They would not enter a room if someone else was in there. They wouldn't go watch TV if another family member was watching it. If they did want to watch TV, they would leave a note for their family saying, "We want to watch TV at this time," and the family would leave a door open so the twins could sit in the hallway and watch TV, and then they would run back to their bedroom. So all of their time was spent in their bedrooms, but that being said, they did do stuff. They played with each other, they played with dolls. They eventually found their favorite hobby, which was writing, and the older that they got, the more sure they were that they wanted to write as a career. They each kept a diary in which they would write in daily, and they wrote a number of stories, poems, novels, etc. And I found this really interesting, but their favorite thing to write about were stories of young boys and girls who exhibited strange and often criminal behavior. At 18 years old, they attempted to have some of their writings published, but that didn't work out for them. And they felt very trapped because it's not like they necessarily liked being lonely and alone and isolated from the world. They just felt like they needed to be because they didn't feel understood by anyone else. But being isolated and only talking to each other and only being in their bedroom began to feel like their own little prison to them. And when they turned 18 and publishing their stories wasn't successful, they felt like their life was just passing them by. So they decided to start hanging out with some boys, but the thing is, those boys were not great. June has said, quote, "The two of us were out of our minds. We were out of our depth, beyond help. So from going to being writers, we started destroying the town, vandalizing places," end quote. Their behavior got out of hand pretty quickly. They were setting things on fire, committing petty crimes, stealing, vandalizing buildings. They were acting out. And when they got caught by the police got a hold of their diaries in which the twins admitted to everything, so they were arrested. When they were in custody, the then 19-year-old twins got assessed by a psychiatrist, and under the Mental Health Act, the psychiatrist decided that they should be moved to Broadmoor Hospital. And we have spoken about Broadmoor Hospital before. It's a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. That hospital holds some of the most notorious criminals like Charles Bronson and the Yorkshire Ripper. It honestly sounds terrifying. June said that when they were sent there, she thought they were only going to be there for a short amount of time. But come to find out, they were sent there for an indefinite period of time based on their psychiatric reports. And their behavior while at Broadmoor was described as dangerous and disturbing. Dangerous because when they were together, they would write in their diaries about how much they hated each other and about how they wanted to end the life of the other one because they hated each other so much. They would write the most violent things, and they would get also in physical fights. But when they were apart, they would write about how lonely they were, how much they missed the other twin, and how much they needed each other. To use as an example of the disturbing behavior, sometimes staff would find them on opposite sides of the building, frozen in the exact same position. Very odd. On top of that, they were in Broadmoor, so the people they were around were the worst of the worst criminals there are. June has said, quote, "My first boyfriend was there for robbery. Jennifer's boyfriend, 2 women." Okay, moving on. June and Jennifer were there for 11 years. It took 11 years for them to be moved to a lower security hospital in 1993, which was called Caswell Clinic. But right when they left Broadmoor, one of the twins, Jennifer, said, quote, "I'm going to have to die." And when she was asked why, she just said, quote, "Because we decided." I read that the twins were living their entire lives as one person. They were 2 people trying to live as one, and as a result, they were incapable of living a normal life. So to give one of them the option to live normally, to escape all of this behavior, and become what society would call normal, the other one had to sacrifice. And this is so chilling, I have goosebumps, but when the twins arrived at Caswell Clinic, Jennifer was unresponsive and she was immediately taken to seek care. Her sister June has said, quote, "They couldn't make sense of it. This young woman who apparently several hours earlier had been as right as rain was dying slowly in front of their eyes and they couldn't work out why," end quote. And then she was gone. Pronounced deceased. Her cause of death was listed as a natural cause due to acute myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle. What? After her twin sister Jennifer passed away, June wrote a poem that reads, quote, "We were once 2, we 2 made 1, we'd know more too, through life be one, rest in peace," end quote. June now is living a normal life, a happy life, and she continues to write. She has spoken out about her experience with her sister, and she plans to publish her writing. I think she already published some, but plans to publish more. And to end this video with one of her quotes, she says, quote, "Every day I wake up and say to myself, one more day for me and one more day for my sister. I live for her. What I see and do, she does as well." Yeah, so that's that story. Weird, strange, odd, all of the above. I remember when I heard this, I think I was in high school and I was so bamboozled by it. I ran to my school and told all my friends this story because I was like, what? Anyway, that is all I have for today's story. Thank you for spending time with me and for listening to the story. Please let me know what you think about it. I'm going to read all the comments as I usually try to do. But yeah, that's all for me today. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.